Let's be real. Starting, running, and scaling a coaching business can feel exhausting. I mean, you've got the marketing, the hustling, the selling, all that stuff you didn't realize you would need to master when you decided to start a coaching business. For anything like me, you started your coaching business to change the world, to improve the lives of others while improving your own. Well, the truth is, running a business doesn't have to be as hard as many of us have made it out to seem. And you don't even have to do all that hustling stuff if you don't want to. You really can get into flow, into your zone of genius, and get back to the work you were sent here to do. But you have to ask for help. You have to be willing to work in new ways. You have to be willing to open up your mind to mentors who might be doing it differently than you've ever considered. And you have to be willing to actually implement new ways of thinking and running your business. If you're up for that, stay tuned. I'm Hannah Hermanson, your certified coach, international speaker, author, and yes, the founder of Dream Life is Real Life and the host of this show. And I've been able to help hundreds of coaches build, scale, and enjoy their online businesses. Essentially, make their dream life their real life. And if you'd like help improving your business life and get your coaching business to the next level, we might be able to help you. Head on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show to get all the resources and episodes that we talk about in this community. You can join our Facebook community, you can find me on Instagram, but more importantly, if you're really ready to integrate what you learn here today and on other episodes, then you'll be able to set up a complimentary 10-minute chat with my team. Again, at dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, no strings attached. We love getting to know you and seeing what are the right next moves for you. But now let's get on to the show. In this podcast, you'll find the real people, concrete tactics, and weekly motivation and inspiration to make your dream life and business real. I started this podcast to bring you the role models that I never had. We talk to successful entrepreneurs, freedom seekers, business owners, and people living life on their own terms. To be a true leader, to create the legacy you desire, and to live in alignment, you need a tribe lifting you up. And I've made it my mission to be your tribe, to bring them to your ears at least, because after all, we are all in this together. Now, let's cue the music. All right, friends, it's Hannah here, and we're doing this a little bit different today. I decided to record a new or a different intro after I had this interview with Stacy Cohen, Dr. Stacy Cohen, because I wanted to make sure that you really understood what we were going to dig into today. So first and foremost, Stacy Cohen, MD, is a double board certified general and addiction psychiatrist licensed in both New York and California, and she's now based in Los Angeles. She completed her residency training at the University of Chicago and Rush University for her fellowship at UCLA Medical Center. But more importantly than credentials, Dr. Cohen founded The Moment, which is a private practice group in Santa Monica after she was feeling frustrated with what was out there. You know, she saw a need in the market, and so she created her own collaborative approach and created a community of top-notch mental professionals working together in a modern and inspiring setting. She strives to create the ultimate relaxing environment for optimal healing and change. So, remarkable guest, okay, well accomplished, and also very honest and vulnerable. You know, before we hit record, she said, "I'm an open book." And I really appreciate this episode to both talk about the realities of, you know, getting off of the status quo path. I mean, this woman is someone who went to medical school for years and years and then decided to start her own wellness center. So we talk about the courage that takes. And we also talk about how to keep taking care of ourselves, even when we're taking care of others, even when we're running a business or multiple businesses, even when, you know, society is a little bit crazy. So welcome to the show. Get cozy, and you are going to love this conversation with Dr. Stacy Cohen. All right, everyone. Stacy, I'm so excited to have you here and open up this conversation. I think it's so important for us to be transparent and have some real talk about some of the things that you're an expert in. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of being here, I'm curious what brought you here? One of the questions I love to hear from people on the show is, did you grow up thinking like, I'm going to found a movement and, be a psychiatrist? Or what was your path to coming to where you are now?
Yeah, it was a bit of a winding path, sort of, but not really. My parents will tell you when I was a little kid, I definitely had the entrepreneurial brain because I was like, I'm going to be a doctor on Mondays, a lawyer on Tuesdays, an architect on Wednesdays, an actor on I wanted to be everything. And I kind of get to do a lot of different. I
was going to say, I still relate to that.
Yeah, which is great. And I love it. And I created that dream, which is awesome. But the way I got here, the thing that I was sort of most passionate about was it actually started with those commercials. I think they were for Kissimmee St. Cloud, and it was little kids in Africa with cleft palates. And I was like, and my dad was like sort of a money guy, lawyer, fighting on the phone a lot. And I was like, I want to do something like altruistic. I don't want to talk about money and fight about money all day. So I would watch those commercials and I'd be like, I want to help those little kids who are starving, who need surgery. So I knew sort of I wanted to be a doctor. So I went along the path of becoming a doctor and 25, years of school and hundreds of $1,000s later. Mm-hmm. Now I'm a doctor and I actually became a surgeon. So I totally didn't know that I'd become a psychiatrist, which is what I do now. Mm-hmm. So I went to medical, and once you're on the medical school path, you're kind of locked in for a long time. You're on this roller coaster, you can't get off. And so I was there doing surgery, and it just didn't feel like, from an impact standpoint, it didn't feel like the right place for me. You're like this operating all day, and they're miracle workers, surgeons and martyrs and everything else. And I was always a big picture impact, large, kind of person, large thinker. And I was finding myself really caught up in the stories of these people getting surgery and not the logistics of the surgery, which is what I need to be focused on. Mm-hmm. And so I switched gears. I transferred residencies into psychiatry and mental health. And I was still in my typical, always looking for something new fashion, where am I? Where do I belong here? The psych wards felt limiting. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then I had this really sort of transformative rotation with addicted professionals. So mostly doctors, nurses, dentists, healthcare workers that had addictions. Mm-hmm. And when I was in medical school, I had a very serious relationship with someone who had an alcohol problem. And so I went through this with another healthcare professional, and it profoundly impacted me. And so when I was in this group helping people who had this problem, I was like, oh, this feels really natural and interesting. And it feels like they need help and I can help them. And it was great. So I went on to get an addiction psychiatry fellowship at UCLA, and that's what brought me out to LA.
More school.
What's that?
More school, more roller coaster, more loans.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And then I did this, there's this thing we call in the addiction psychiatry world, the post-fellowship shuffle, where you work in a million different places. And if anyone knows anything about addiction treatment in LA, there's tons of places to work and tons of levels of care. And in those experiences, which were also necessary, I encourage any entrepreneur to work in different areas of what they're interested in. I learned that there was a need that was missing. There was a gap to fill. And I also sort of learned what I loved about my job and the things I liked, the things I didn't. I learned that I really like keeping people well after they've got amazing intensive care. So I didn't want to be working in rehab where there's constant fires to be put out and people aren't always ready to be there. Mm-hmm. But I liked helping people once they already got sober, kind of figure out their next steps, how to keep their relationships intact, how to, get their dream job, all that kind of stuff. So I learned piece by piece, I learned that I like the outpatient, maintenance and relapse prevention stage of the recovery world. And same with the mental health stuff. I like the people who are kind of working and living in the world and need help. But I also felt like people get all this really intensive treatment when they're really not well. And then they leave the treatment and it falls apart and they spend all this time and money and energy. And so I was like, what are the things that are making it fall apart? And I felt that community and collaboration were the two components of more intensive treatment that go missing when you leave a treatment center. So you hear about celebrities that go away for rehab and then they relapse again. What's missing? They lose the community and they lose the collaboration. And so, collaborator or not, whoever it is. So I wanted to create a space that housed all those things, but for everyday people in everyday life that aren't in intensive treatment, because the intensive treatment centers have all those things.
Yeah.
So really, this was a passion project that started to, grow in my mind out of need. And also, I loved those things. I loved collaborating with a team. And I love the community of working in a treatment center because it feels like summer camp. Like we're all working together and everyone's excited and everyone's motivated. Everyone's doing well. But I wanted to bring that to the outpatient space. So I created the Moment as a one-stop shop for all things mental health that has a community and a collaborative feel. And we're working together as a team. So you're not just seeing your psychiatrist over here and your therapist over here and maybe a coach over here, but you're really doing it all in one space and we all work together. That's the abridged version. But
no, well, I think it's so important to pause here before we get more into what the Moment it looks like now and everything there, because, what you're saying is on a more traditional path, right? Like if you think about kind of the job that's like, we're always going to need it and they need a lot of school and you have to be like a high achiever to do it. It's a doctor. And then, for you to take it to surgery and then through all of these iterations, like I want people listening to be able to observe this story and apply it to their own, whether or not you went to medical school, like every experience you've had is leading you to the next. And I happen to be the little kid who felt like I had like Tony Robbins calls it a sleeping giant. Like there's something inside of me, like I don't fit here. Like what's wrong with me? And it has been through just taking on experiences that helped to identify what that thing is. And for me, it's like entrepreneur and leadership types of things. So what I'm hearing loud and clear from you is that like, if you don't fit, keep going forward because there's something you can create or find. You don't have to like change it about yourself. Just keep saying yes to something different then. Right?
Exactly. Keep saying yes and do the things that are hard that will put you in a position to have more freedom later. Because they can be, not everything has to be the end point. It can be a stepping stone. I had to get through my year of surgery. I couldn't quit. I could have, but then I wouldn't have had the doors open that opened for me. And it gave me so much valuable experience.
Right. And that clarity of exactly what you wanted your thing to look like, right? You were able to compare and contrast and ultimately identify a need. And I always talk to folks who want to just start a business and it's like, what do you have to offer? What problem are you going to solve? Like, it's very difficult to just put stuff out there. And so I love what you're like really reiterating here, which is like, I saw a gap, I saw a need. And so you've created the Moment to fill that for this really, fairly specific niche, if you will.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, there was a mix of, I just want to start a business because that's who I am. And then tons of experience and connection. And I had built a whole private practice of my own that I brought into the practice. So I was in a really good position to do it. So all the experience definitely brought me there. And I couldn't have done it this way if I didn't have all that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said you're an open book, right? Because I'm curious for someone who is on a very traditional path, like, you went to school, you followed all of the right things, you dotted the I's, crossed the T's. Did you have any pushback either internally or externally when you decided to step out onto your own path?
Totally. There was pushback at sort of every step of the way. I think leaving surgery was big. So surgery is kind of like the elitist profession in the medical world. And to have I got a position at University of Chicago, super prestigious, big deal. And everyone was trying to caution me not to leave, but I knew I couldn't do it. I knew I was burning out. And more importantly, it's way too much, of a commitment for something that I didn't think was the right kind of impact for me. I felt like it wasn't the proper use of my internal resources.
Yep.
And my life. And it's a good, 5 to 10 years of training. And to do all that and spend really critical years of my life, in my early 30s, at that time, to be doing all that without being sure that it's my passion. It just didn't feel right. And so I had a lot of people telling me I was making a mistake. A lot of people.
Yeah.
Surgery is a 50% nutrition rate. So, but still people thought I was making a mistake.
Right. Right. Yeah. I can definitely relate to that. And like we kind of talked about before, even when it was a previous dream, like for you, like getting that surgery gig and like being in Chicago was probably something you had aspired to do. And then you get there and you're like, nope. But it's tricky to bring everyone along with that kind of like internal shift. So I'm curious, I love this conversation because I know everyone who steps out to do something different or new has that sort of pushback. So what did you find helpful, or how did you navigate those times?
That is such a good point. So yeah, I think so much of it is becoming solid in yourself, which takes a long time to do. And you need to have some, success under your belt in order to feel solid in yourself. But you also can have a lot of failures and still feel solid, because it's really about what's within. And my team goes through this all the time, because I have ideas and I'm like, let's do this. Let's start another business. Let's do this. And then I have to rein it back in and be like, okay, no. But what I've learned to do is embrace the fact that I have an entrepreneurial brain and spirit. And that might mean, 10 ideas come out and we only take one path, and really surround myself with people that are supportive of that. And that, you have to unapologetically be yourself. And that's been the hardest part about this for me. Like, I'm 37 years old and I feel like I'm just getting to that place where I'm like, you know what, if they don't agree, too bad. Like, the people who are on the team are people who can support this. And I'm going to try not to drive everyone crazy in the meantime.
Yeah.
But it's okay to change my mind, Yeah.
And I'm sure if you're anything like me, you've been seeing those phrases on Pinterest for like a decade, like be unapologetically you, like surround yourself with your 5 people, like, embrace your strengths, your quirks as strengths. But there's such a difference between like embodying that, like going through the turbulence that you then find yourself on the other side. So if anyone is listening and like, okay, cliche, Ben, I know, like, you don't know until you know. And I just want to circle back to like taking the action, doing the hard thing is the best way to really find yourself, I think.
Totally true. And I was always looking for someone to validate me or my ideas. And I had to learn to do it myself. I had to. Eventually, I'm learning that still every day. But we all need validation. But you're right. You can read it all day long, but until you start saying it to yourself and meaning it, and if enough people are doing it around you, like I'm on Peloton and there's an instructor that I love that's always saying, I'm like, okay, she did it, I can do it. That eventually it becomes contagious, but you have to take it in.
I feel that way about my Instagram feed. I'm just like, yes, like I know a lot of people get sucked into social media, but I've like pruned my feed to just be people who inspire me and say the right things when I need to hear it. So I love that. And this is like the millionth time I've heard Peloton, and I keep dragging my feet on it, but that's a whole other tangent. Great. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk more about some of the work that you do. So I know your practice is in depth and you build long relationships with clients to really figure out, how to support them into that next stage of life that you said. But there's a lot of mental health concerns, just, everybody walking around in 2020. So if you were to just maybe give some nuggets for folks who are starting to, wonder, should I be drinking wine every night? Or, is this blue feeling ever going to go away? Talk to us a little bit about, what advice you have for just us and all that's impacting us right now.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's the first time I'm going through like a collective trauma with all my patients. So like they're asking me how I'm doing and which is new, but we're all in the same boat and we all need help right now. So yeah, I think, you keep hearing all the cliches, self-care, but it's true. We need to be doing that. My patients will tell you I'm a broken record about exercise. It's really, I will see people for years and they won't exercise and we'll talk about it every single session. And then they'll start and they'll feel better and they won't have felt better until then. So exercise is medicine. And there was actually a big study where they compared Zoloft, which is an antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, with exercise. And over the long term, exercise did better. Not to say that sometimes there isn't a great use of meds. And at the beginning, Zoloft worked better, but then eventually exercise had the more lasting effects in the longer term. So we actually get healthy drugs. We get endorphins, we get serotonin, we get dopamine when we exercise. So I can't stress enough how important that is. It's easy to brush off and it's hard to get going, but a little bit goes a long way. Even if it's 10 minutes here or there, just do it, just get outside, just do whatever you need to do. Sleep is so important. Our phones are in our face. We need to figure out a way not to do that. It's hard and I'm not good at it either, but I do take extra efforts to try to make sure that I'm putting it on a different side of the room or whatnot. Sleep meditations become really popular. You can just put on a meditation. You don't have to look at a screen because looking at a screen really tells your brain that it's time to wake up. So you don't want to be looking at a screen. So putting on an audio sleep meditation is great. This is a really good time to start figuring out some hobby, especially if you're not working because of COVID or whatnot, figuring out some hobbies, bucket list things. Like I learned to surf over the quarantine. Nice. I'm not very good at it and I stopped, but I did learn. That was my bucket list thing.
Very cool.
Finding something to, finding a way to make lemonade out of the lemons that is this year.
Or start an online business if you've identified a problem that you can solve, right?
Exactly. And Zoom calls with friends that my college friends and I hadn't talked in years, and now we talk every Wednesday. So there, there's opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. So many silver linings. And I think what you're sharing are really the basics. And I don't know if it's just technology or the way like society is evolving, but it feels like we just need these like the new solution and like this thing is going to be sexy that like helps us feel our best and like biohacking and supplements and all of this noise. And so I really appreciate you sharing just those simple things that we as humans know that like sleep and hobbies and exercise is important, but they are definitely not to be downplayed at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm curious, with the work that you do, and you mentioned your team and your clients and, really being someone that's in service, how are you managing your team in this time? Like, have there been any shifts to your leadership in 2020?
Yeah. So the way we work is we have 6 psychiatrists. We have 5 therapists. We have a case manager. We have a TMS bed, which is a treatment specifically for depression. We have, it's a magnetic machine to help with depression and anxiety and whatnot. And we have, let's see what else. We do at-home detoxes, things like that. So some of our services are now virtual, which is really helpful to everyone. But it does fragment us as a team because we're used to being in the office together. So we used to have clinical meetings in person. Now we have virtual clinical meetings every week. And it really helps us kind of stay grounded. We actually spend the first half of not the first half, but the first beginning of the meeting doing a meditation together, just to kind of like be present and be focused, which I think is really helpful because it's hard on a Zoom call.
Do you remember when that was like witchcraft? Like that was the craziest thing to be doing. Like, you're making me slow down and breathe, like, you crazy woman. So I just love, at least in my world, how normalized and like, what a great yes. Everything should start with meditation. Meetings.
Exactly. So we start it that way. And then we have like announcements. So we're all on the same page, and then we get into the clinical work. And so I think having team meetings that way is really important. We have an email address that's, that I call family and it's our moment family. And so we can share, memes. I sent one the other day. It was like a Winnie the Pooh, I'm tired of this sort of thing. Me too. And we just do little things like that to kind of create community. We're actually doing a team building exercise next week. It's a game show.
Oh, fun.
My friend started a really cool project called Seesaw, and it's a virtual platform for corporate team building.
Very cool.
So we're going to help her, build her business and test that out. And we're going to play, I don't know, Family Feud or something as a team, Halloween themed, to kind of keep each other in each other's presence and feel like we're still a team, even though we're virtual.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful adaptation right there. And I really love what you're saying about bringing in the realness, right? Of like memes and conversations and just like a moment to get on the same page. And I know that's a big thing I'm seeing with my clients and their teams is that like that little intimacy goes a long way right now. And so those are great tips. I think that's perfect. And the next kind of topic I wanted to dive into with you is more on the like marketing or business side of things. So I'm curious if your clientele, do they come from referrals? Do they like walk by your building, or are you guys playing the marketing game to get new folks into your practice?
Yeah. So I sort of built my reputation here by working from 2013 on until now, until I opened the business, which was a year and a half ago or so. So I had a lot of people in the community that kind of I knew and that knew me and that I let know that I was starting a business. When I started this, I was pretty much on my own and I didn't know really what I was doing in terms of the business element and the marketing element. So at first I was doing everything by myself, which meant in my free time, I'd start an Instagram page and like forget about it. And maybe
get lost in the Minnie the Pooh memes. And
yes, everything got everything was chaotic. And I didn't even have an operations person. So eventually I was like, I actually called one of the people who works for me now who does a lot of coaching. I'm like, I need you to coach me. I need help. She's like, you don't need me. You need an operations person. I'm like, oh, is that what that's called? I thought I needed a coach. So she put me in touch with an operations person and then our operations were running smoothly. And that meant we had listservs, so we then started sending out MailChimp and whatnot. And then we started thinking about social media. Then we got our Instagram page and then we got, we started doing little things to kind of get the word out. A big referral source for us are treatment centers. We already knew we worked with them, but we weren't keeping track. So now we do, and we get on meetings with new treatment centers all the time to make sure they know about us and we know about them. I've done a lot of little articles here and there and appearances. I've connected with a lot of different types of doctors in the community that see people that also struggle with mental health, that send people to us. Eventually, our operations became smooth, and I got really blessed. Our operations person then became business development and marketing person. So we actually now have that as a role. And we also have a like PR social media firm that we work with. So now I've actually hired people to do those things that I was trying to do. I was trying to wear every hat myself. And
you're wearing all the hats.
Don't suggest it.
Right. Well, I think there's a really important lesson there at the beginning was to focus on your warm market. Like, reconnecting with people that already knew, like, and trusted you and getting the word out. There's so many times I ask clients, like, how many people actually know what you do? And they're like, well, I'm like, no, people don't know what you do. Like, you have to stay top of mind. And so just giving people those like personal updates and saying, hey, if you ever know anyone who might need this thing that I'm starting, like, I want you to know what I do. And then the other thing I'm hearing is that you just double down on what was working. Right. So you were getting referrals from other clinics and other centers, and you doubled down on that strategy and like building those relationships, I'm sure. Because I hear often as well, it's like, so-and-so said I have to start a podcast, or I think I need ads, or I think I need to go to TikTok. And it's like, okay, maybe, but like, has it ever worked for you? What is working for you? And, that shiny object syndrome, maybe like you just, start an Instagram page. I guess I have to. It can be really distracting, especially when you're starting out. So leverage your warm market and who you already know, and focus on what's gotten you clients in the past, what already works.
You're doing such an excellent job of consolidating, bullet pointing the vast array of things that I'm saying. So I just want to acknowledge that. Yes.
All good. There's, in addition to like the giant I said that lives inside of me, there's also like a second grade teacher. Like, I love like crayons, and I feel like I can make a lesson plan for things.
Yeah, no, it's a great, and I would say those are the two most important things for sure.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. Well, we learned so much from you today. I mean, all things from the journey to the team building to the 2020 and even some marketing tips. So this is really great. And I'm curious, Stacy, for folks who want to, learn more about the moment and what you guys are up to, where can they go to learn more?
Yeah, so you can visit our website. It's themomenthealth.com, or our Instagram at The Moment Health. I think we also have a Facebook page out there somewhere. But yeah, I'd say that our Instagram was full of sort of inspiring quotes and whatnot, and some of the cool media stuff we're doing, the partnerships we have, and then our website. And we're happy to help people in any way we can. So
yeah, such important work that you all are doing. So really appreciate you sharing some of your time and light with us today. And listeners, I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life your real life.
thank you so much.
Of course. That's right, friends. That'll do it for our show today. But remember, if you're really ready to implement and take these ideas into action, then hop on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, and you can access all of the resources we talked about, and more importantly, set up a complimentary 10-minute phone call with my team so that we can help you get clarity and some concrete action steps in place, so this doesn't just become another one of those feel-good moments, but an opportunity to actually make a change in your life and business, because all good things come in action. So we'll see you over there at dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, and next week here on the show.